Hi, this is going to be a demo on how to make your first animation. And the first kind of animation that we are going to try is called something called rotoscoping. It's a nice, quick way of doing the fundamentals of animation and not having to really work too hard, but still get a pretty cool effect. I'm going to show you how we're going to get started on this. So the first thing I want you to see are the files that I started with. So your very first step is to take a video. It should be a very short video. This is the video that I literally started with. I just asked my daughter to turn her head slightly and smile. And you can see it's only about a second long. And that's all I wanted. So it's just under a second. Um, look for some sort of action. Ask your brother or sister, someone to jump or move their face or make a silly face or have your dog run or jump or something like that. But it should only be about a fraction of a second because we're going to do a rotoscoped animation, but we're going to turn it into an animated GIF. And if you think about animated GIFs, they are looping and they go pretty quick. So that's where I started. So you have to start with that video. Then what we're going to do is we're going to convert that video into something that we can use in Photopea to start our rotoscope. So what we'll have to do, and this seems kind of silly, is that we're going to actually have to make that video into a GIF. So once you have that video, what I did is I just emailed it to myself and then I downloaded it into my downloads. After that, I want you to go to a website called easygif.com. On easygif.com, you have the option to go to video to GIF. So you're altering your video to GIF. My phone takes MP4s. I'm assuming yours probably does too, and it's going to convert that file into a GIF. The next screen you'll come up to, mine's already been uploaded, but you'll have an option to actually upload a file. You'll click on the file, and mine was in my download, so I uploaded it, and there it is. There she is. My file got uploaded to EasyGIF. It'll give you some parameters here. Then you'll go ahead and click on Convert to GIF. You'll wait a little bit, and then before you know it, right in the box below, pops up your MP4 translated into a GIF. And there she is. Now with that file, what I want to do next is I'm going to go ahead and save it. So I'm going to save this file. And I'm going to go ahead and save it again back into my downloads. I'm just going to keep the name as it is, but you can see now it's a GIF file. I'm in my downloads, and I'm going to go ahead and hit save. Again, I'll have all these instructions ready for you in the written format, step by step. Okay. Next, we're going over to our program Photopea. Now remember, I'm saying program, but it's actually just a web-based program, kind of like a watered-down version of Photoshop. So now what I want to do is I want to open up that translated, I guess you could say, MP4 into an animated GIF. And I'm going to go ahead and make sure that I'm opening it into Photopea. And when it does, it's going to open up, and it's going to open up all of my layers, which is great. So I'm going to go ahead and go to File. Oops. Go to File and Open. I'm going to go back to my downloads, and here I am, and I'm going to go ahead and open up my GIF. So you can see I've already tried this a couple times. So I'm going to go ahead and just open up my GIF. While it's loading, you'll see suddenly it'll transform the entire window to the size that I re-recorded. And you'll look in the layers and you'll see that every frame of the animation or the animated GIF is now a separate layer. So we're going to use that to our advantage. I do want you to know that there are quite a few movies that have used the rotoscoping style. And they come out a little eerie almost. It's a lot like that 3D animated style where they put the points on the actors and it picks up those points kind of, and it becomes a little eerie. But this is a fun way to get started in animation. So you'll notice that every frame pops up then as a layer. So we're going to use that to our advantage. So what I want you to do next then is I want you to make a new layer. So I've hidden all of the layers except for the very bottom layer. I'm going to make a new layer and whoops, backtrack. I'm going to highlight that bottom layer. I'm going to make a new layer and that new layer will pop up right above your last layer. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to work in this new layer and I'm going to trace her. I'm going to trace the parts that I want to see. On my Chromebook, I actually have a pen, so I'm going to use that to help me a little bit. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to find my brush. I'm going to, just for fun, I'm going to change the size out to be maybe like 6. And I'm just going to start tracing the parts of her that I think are going to be important to this animation. The cool thing about rotoscoping is that it doesn't have to be perfect. Rotoscoping, you kind of have this weird wiggly effect because every frame is slightly different than the frame before. But it's mostly about the fact that you are highlighting and following the main points and movement in the actual photograph. So you can see I'm not being perfect because I know that each one of these frames is going to only be seen for a fraction of a second. You can change your brush sizes if you want. But that's just a quick trace. You can see how she's looking. Like I said, it's not perfect, but that's going to be okay. You can also add another layer underneath. And on this layer, I'm going to create a larger brush. Not quite that big. I'm going to change my color out. Let's do kind of a golden yellow. And I'm going to layer underneath and I'm going to kind of color in her hair. And I'm being very stylistic with that, which is a simple way of saying I'm being kind of sloppy. It kind of creates this Andy Warhol type effect, I guess you could say, which is very pop art. I'm going to find a color that I think would be appealing for her skin tone. And then I'll do another color here for her red sweatshirt. And like you can see, I'm really not trying to be perfect. I'm actually almost slightly intentionally trying to be imperfect because it will have more of that pop art effect. I'm also going to include another layer underneath all of this so that the animated GIF will not have these transparent areas, because a GIF is a file that can be seen through. So what I'm going to do for that is I'm going to go to Layer, New Fill Layer, a color fill, and I want it to be white. The one thing I do want you to notice in Photopea is that it saves the colors that you have used. So there's that yellow that I used for the hair. There's that peach color, or that kind of, I don't know, that beige color that I used for her skin tone, and the red that I used for her sweatshirt. So I can use those in the other frames as well. So I'm going to go ahead and hit OK. And that layer is going to go underneath everything. Okay. So there's one frame. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and make the next frame of LOE is live. I'm going to highlight that. I'm going to go ahead and make a new layer. I'll get my pen again, or my stylus. Click on my colors, go back to black, hit OK. And I'm going to, whoops, sorry about that. I'm going to go back to my, I think it was 5. Let's just keep it there. And trace again. And like I want you to notice, again, I'm not being perfect. I'm not saying, oh, before I did that part on her eye, or I traced her mouth slightly different in the last one. As long as you get the same main parts, it will be fine. So after I've finished with the black lines, what I'm going to do is then again make another layer underneath. I'll go back to my brush, make it large again, go back to my colors. There's that yellow I looked for before. I'll fill in her hair, goobly goobly goo, right? There we go. And I'll fill in her sweatshirt, right? Let's make that a little bit bigger. Okay, there's her sweatshirt. And then her skin tone. Okay. Let me go back to her hair a little bit more. All right. And then we're going to do that with all of the layers. My video has 18 layers. If you're starting to feel like, oh man, this is getting to be a little too tedious, if you really are feeling that way, it might be a little choppy, but you can possibly do every other one then. But this is what you're going to have to do. When you have that all set and done, you've made layers and you've traced everything, then what you're going to have to do is rename and merge the layers. So, for example, I have this color fill, right? We made that color fill, and it's the white fill underneath everything. I'm going to go ahead. So I have, just so you can see what I'm looking at, This is my first set for my first frame. I had the original layer of Eloise, I had my tracing, and I had my undercoloring. I also had then underneath all of that, I have a color fill. So what I'm going to do though, is I'm going to take layer 1 and layer 2, which is the tracing and the underlayer coloring. I'm going to hold my control key and create both of those highlighted. Then I'm going to go ahead and right click and click on merge layers. So I've merged those two. Now what I'm going to do is I need to rename these layers. If you notice, all the layers that came in from the animated GIF have this A in front of it and this FMR, which means frame, and then out of 100, which is the rate. I'm going to rename these, and I don't need to rename them exactly, but I do need to have the A. The A is the action. So I'm going to go ahead and double click on this. And I know this is my very first frame. So I'm going to go ahead and name it underscore A underscore 0. It's going to be my very first one. Everyone is going to have that underscore A underscore at the beginning of the layer's name. And then the number after that is its order in which it is shown. So underscore A underscore and the order in which it's shown. I'm starting with 0. Now what I can do is I can go ahead and I can delete my actual photograph. Now here's my second set. There's my frame of Eloise, there's my underpainting, and there's my drawing on top. Again, I'm going to take my tracing or my drawing, I'm going to hold shift, I'm going to grab my underpainting, and then I'm going to go ahead and right click, merge layers. So now they're one layer together. Now I'm going to go ahead and double click on the name, underscore A underscore. This one's going to be 1. Now I can go ahead and delete that layer. So here we are. We have frame 1, frame 2. You can see the beginning of the animation. Once you have everything complete, so I'm going to go ahead and file save as PSD. Make sure that you do this often, just in case, especially for a project like this. I'm going to go ahead and save. I'm going to open up a version where I went through the whole process already, but not with underpainting. This version that I'm opening up for you actually only has the tracing. So this is the PSD file of all of my tracings for that same video. You can see in the layers that I renamed them underscore A, and then underscore, and then the number of the frame. So here is the final step. So once those layers are merged, you can also see this one needs to have that bottom layer. So we need to have a layer fill. We'll do a color layer fill. I'll just keep it with the yellow just to try it out. Oops. Let's make sure we get that in the bottom. Image, I'm sorry, layer fill, color fill. Okay. Make sure that's at the bottom. Now, once I have all of that, I do not need to rename this color fill. It's just basically the background. Now, once I have it, all I have to do is go to File, and then export as GIF. Once we do this, it's going to take a moment because it's going to set up a new dialog box that's discussing with us how do we want this to actually go. So you can see my quick little just tracing. As you can see, I didn't have any of the under painting like I was showing you. I was just trying the tracing and see how it goes. I like that. I can change the quality. I can change the speed. You can reverse the frames. You can try that if you want to. But you have all these different options if you want to change the size, whatever you want to do. So then what you'll do is you go ahead and hit, so now I'm reversing. Go ahead and hit save. And just like you save anything else, it's going to go ahead and jump into wherever you want it to be. I'm going to go ahead and name this Eloise, Annie for animation. Hit save. Oops, I already did that one. Annie 2. Hit save. And then if you want to see, there's my animations. I have the one I was messing around with before. There's the original. And there is my rotoscoped animation, animate a GIF. So that's how you do it. I really want you to do the under painting like I showed you in the demo. And I want you to have fun. Make sure you're finding a clip that's short enough to be able to do this. Again, I have all this in handwritten or in written explanation as well.